today's class is about the sheath that is called Pranamaya Kosha. So last time we were together, we did Annamaya Kosha. That was the physical body. That was all of our organs. They call it the food body, right? The body that is tangible, what we can touch, and all of the systems and senses that go along with that. But in this model that we're talking about in this series, we look at the whole being. And so that means that we're looking at not only what's physical, but how our energy levels are. So we call them the subtle bodies, and there's not really a specific order or size to them. They're all kind of equal in, we're going to say, size and or importance to us. But they maybe have different qualities and different ways of connecting. But we're also reminded that we are completely integrated as a holistic person, being, whatever word feels comfortable. So for today's, we're looking at the subtle body of energy. And so what does this model actually mean? It means that there's nothing that happens that doesn't affect our entire body. So if there's something that's happening, we're ill, we're having a surgery, we fall down, our arthritis is acting up, or we have a cold and we can't breathe, it's impactful to all the other parts of us. So maybe if we fall and we're injured, or we have persistent pain, we can't go out and play with our grandkids or go for a walk or climb a hill or whatever that thing might be. And that affects how we breathe, right? As things get more stressful, our breath changes. Or maybe there's some mind chatter that focuses around that, right? Like everybody else is climbing up that hill, everybody else is going for this hike, and here I am, I'm not. So the mind starts to tell us stories, and we get to become aware that the story we tell ourselves is one of our own creation. That sometimes we never really know why somebody else is saying something or doing something unless we ask them and they share that information with us. If we assign a story, it belongs to us. So we can change the story, change the narrative, and change the end result. And those stories sometimes impact our emotions, right? We can tell ourselves a story that says, I'm resilient, and whatever happens, I have everything I need. I have my support group in place. I've got everything I need throughout whatever this event is to feel fully supported and to be okay with processing these emotions. Or we could tell ourselves, I'm a victim, I can't believe all this crap is happening to me, and blah, blah, blah. And it's a completely different story or a completely different way that we're going to react to it. So our emotions are integrated with whatever that physical thing is that's going on. So no matter what happens, we have different ways of accessing and processing the information. And today's is breath. So in this model, we call it prana. And the translation of the word prana is vital life force, vital energy. So we begin to cultivate a relationship with our breath. And it's a really interesting, I found it to be, I won't prescribe your thoughts, but I found it to be an interesting concept when I first started learning this, that I had to develop a relationship with my breath, that I actually had to pay attention to how and when and why I was breathing in certain patterns. It's, we're born into this world, we get a little tap, and we're breathing. And the last thing we do on the way out is let go of that first breath. But most people don't really pay attention to the idea that you have to focus on your breath. It's a system that runs in the background. So when we cultivate this relationship with our breath, we can call on it to give us whatever it is that we think we need in any moment. So for today, we'll look at a couple of different ways of connecting with the breath and noticing what it's doing, whether we're stuffy or it's free flowing, whether it's deep or whether it's shallow, fast or slow, filled with relaxation or stress. What does it look like and what does it have to tell us? So, in yoga, we have a lot of different tools and we try to layer them together to help. So, for the breath, we have a mudra and it's called Vitam Mudra. So, it's basically taking your hands and placing them as if you're holding a ball in between them. So, I'm trying to do it. Yeah. So they're just little cupped hands. You can't do it wrong, but you just kind of cup your hands as if there's a ball between them. And we begin to notice if you can feel anything between your hands. So sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't. So we notice the palms of the hands, and if there's any sensation there. And as they rest in front of the body, wherever it's comfortable to hold them, generally, it's somewhere around the abdomen if we're just like resting our arms next to our body. But with the hands resting there, we just notice. So we begin to be aware of the breath that we show up with. So allow your attention to notice or observe, witness, whatever word feels right, about the movement of the hands and its coordination with the inhale and the exhale. Allowing our attention to rest. Maybe we notice that the hands have a slight movement to them. They could remain still, or perhaps as the inhale expands the abdomen, we notice subtle movements in the expansion of the placement of the hands. As the abdomen rests with the exhale, maybe the hands come closer together, or not. We're just watching right now. Of course, at any time, if the breath or the hand, if the hands become fatigued by just holding them, you can always let them just rest on the legs or any other place that's comfortable. So as we watch the breath, sometimes we notice things. When I began watching my breath, I used to tell my teacher, every time I focus on my breath, it becomes harder to breathe, or my breath gets really fast, or whatever that might be. Maybe the breath isn't changing, our focus is the thing that's changed, and we're just simply noticing and becoming aware as we begin to cultivate this relationship. As you feel ready, maybe we'll change our hand position from Vitam Mudra that we've been holding to Anjali Mudra, prayer pose, hands in front of the heart. And as you do, maybe just notice the difference in how you feel with one versus the other. So these subtle gestures interact with our thoughts, our emotions. With the hands here, I invite you to set an intention. Then we'll release that intention on a breath, a lingering breath as the Om leaves our body. Taking a nice deep inhale. Om. Releasing the hands from the heart, maybe allowing the eyes to open again. And we'll start with ways of connecting with the passages of breath. Maybe that'll help with any stuffiness that there is. So we're going to take our hands, and I'm going to take my glasses off and put them aside. You can do the same, or if you can reach, don't worry about it. We're going to let our hands be soft and easy, and then just gently tap along the space beneath the eyes, what we would call our cheekbones, right? And we give this gentle tapping. So beneath our cheekbones are the sinuses. And sometimes when they're clogged or um, abundantly filled, we can encourage movement rather than stagnation by adding the vibration or this gentle tapping. So there's lots of ways to do it. You can allow all the fingers to tap the face along these sinuses, or you can do it as if you're tapping your fingers on something where one finger at a time um, is the pattern that you choose. So all we're doing is giving ourselves a gentle tapotement, as if we're playing the musical instrument of the drums along those cheekbones and breaking up anything that's stuck or overfilled, dry, right? We can encourage flow of energy, flow of fluid into those sinuses. So we're going to look at all the sinuses of the face, or the ones I'm remembering right now, as we continue to move through this tapping. So we're going to take the taps along the bottom of that cheekbone, and there's no wrong place to be. So if you don't feel your cheekbone, just imagine its shape. We're going to bring them up the side of the head, and right to the forehead, to the um, sinus that rests behind this big bone at the top of the head. These big holes in our cranium reduce the weight of all of these big bones, so makes our head manageable to hold on top of our spine. So we tap along those. And then we'll rest from the tapping and just take our pointer finger and find the corners of your eyes next to your nose. And as you come up above the corners of the eyes, you'll feel the edge of the bone that the eyes actually sit in. You'll feel that upper border of the eye socket. And just let the two fingers close to the nose, but just on the sides of the nose, just rest at a comfortable pressure. Maybe it'll feel a little bit tender, but it's just this gentle little compression right there into the sinuses that sit in this space. Anything, of course, if it is tender, means that you're just pushing too hard. So lighten that pressure and just let the head rest against the fingers. And then draw the fingers down the bridge of the nose and then out along those cheekbones. So now we're gliding nice and slow. We're going to do that 2 more times. We're going to take the fingers, place them at the top of the nose, glide them down the bridge of the nose and out along those sinuses, all the way along the base of the cheekbone, out toward the ears. And we'll do that 1 more time. We find the sinus, glide the bridge, and open the space. And just come back and notice how the breath feels right now. Maybe it's the same. Maybe you're noticing that the sinuses have a little bit more space in them. I should always say at the beginning of a pranayama class, if you want to have tissues close by, that's never a bad idea. So the next thing we're going to look at is, are both of our nostrils open or closed? So just like we have a handedness or we have a dominant foot, the dominance of our nostrils changes throughout the day. And it changes throughout whether we have a cold or whether we have allergies or whether everything is going fine today. So we're going to take um, our ring finger and our thumb, and we're going to use them to open and close the nostrils. So before we even begin, just take a nice deep breath through the nose. So if you can, noticing if there's a clear passage or if the air can come in through the nose. So we're assessing, we're taking stock. And then gently and slowly let the air be released through the nose. And then we're going to take these 2 fingers as if they're going to be pinching a pincer. And we're going to place the ring finger. I'm using my left hand because I'm left-handed, but it doesn't mean that you can't use your right. Whatever one feels best for you. But the ring finger for me, because I'm using my left hand, the middle finger, because I'm using my left hand, is going to be on my right nostril and the thumb on the left. So initially, we're going to take a deep breath through both of those nostrils. Then close the left and let the air release through the right. Then we'll inhale through the right. Close the right nostril and let the breath be released through the left. The inhale enters through the left. We close that nostril and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, move to the left. Inhale left. Close, exhale right. Two more times by yourself. As you complete that last round, allow the hand to come back to the lap or any comfortable position and notice the breath. Now that both nostrils are participating, we take an inhale and an exhale. Of course, if you need to do anything to clear out your nose, this would be a great time for that to happen. So, alternate nostril breathing is a great practice. If you have a cold or you feel out of balance, it kind of combines left and right, male and female. Um, and throughout different parts or times during your day, you may notice that different the different nostril is more open and or closed. It's also a great way to start to clear the sinuses if you become congested or you have allergies or a cold. So it's a great practice of balance and clearing. We're going to try another breath practice. So as we build this relationship with our breath, we really are looking to find out how we can use our breath for whatever it is that we need to do. We're going to breathe differently if we're going on a hike than if we're sitting here on our mats in a practice. But one of the things we really want to cultivate that will go through all of our breath practices is closed mouth breathing. And of course, if you're stuffy, that becomes even more challenging. And sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. But if it is, we're going to take our hand and we're going to place one on the abdomen and one on our chest. So these are tools of awareness. So for the first couple of breaths here in this practice, just let your natural breathing, whatever it is at this moment, without changing it, without um, judging it, but just simply notice the movement between the two hands. As the breath enters the body, where is the movement? And as the breath exits the body, what do you feel beneath your hands? And as the breath flows in and the breath flows out, we begin to notice its expansiveness or shallowness, but parts of the body open and move with each of those inhales. What does the squeezing or the compression of the exhale feel like? Where do we notice that? So we'll release the hand from the chest and just let the hand rest on the belly. We're going to do something called three-part breath. In three-part breath, we notice the different expansions within the body as we breathe. So the first place we're going to focus our attention is in the abdomen, in the diaphragm area, which rests just below the rib cage. This is where our major muscle of breathing lives, our diaphragm. And we exercise the diaphragm in the same way we exercise any other muscle, by asking it to work. So as we take an inhale, we want the belly to expand. And as we release the exhale, we want the belly to contract. So from an Anamaya Kosha perspective, from the body's view of breath, as the breath enters the body, the diaphragm, which is tucked up under the ribs like an open umbrella, begins to flatten and drop down towards the seat. And it creates a vacuum that pulls the air into the body, into the lungs. As we exhale, that umbrella comes back to the umbrella shape. The diaphragm ascends, tucks up under our ribs, taps the bottom of the ribs and the lungs, and the breath leaves the body. So the breath flows in and the breath flows out. We build strength and coordination in the muscle called the diaphragm. We'll change our hand position. So we'll come back we'll take our hands and as if we would place them on our hips, but instead of on our hips, we're going to just let our hands rest on the side of the body, like on the rib cage. You'll feel the ribs resting underneath your hands. Let as much ease into the hands and this arm position as you can. The shoulders are back and down and restful. The hands are not squeezing, they're just resting on our side body. And then we return our focus to our breath, noticing the movement as the lungs fill with air. The rib cage expands and it opens out to the side. So notice if you can feel the expansion of the rib cage in the side body. It's often described as a bucket handle, right? Like from an old well, right? That the movement kind of comes out and back in. So we notice if the breath and the lungs, the rib cage, have this ability to expand out to the side. Two more times. Allow your hands to release from the side body, which is sometimes a hard position to be in. So we went through it kind of quickly. And we'll place our hands directly over this heart center. the top of the lungs, the top of the rib cage. And again, just come back to focus, to observe, to notice. As the breath flows in, what sensation rests under the hand that's closest to the skin? You can have one hand or two. Just let them rest with ease. They're just gently placed on our skin. More breaths here. As the hands are released from the heart, without any hand placement, we'll just take 3 nice breaths. And notice if you can be aware without touching those parts of your body. Can you stay connected to their movement? With each breath, the volume of the lungs changes. With each inhale, the volume inside the lungs as they expand and open to accept this vital energy gets full. And as the diaphragm drops down, the belly expands, but it doesn't change its volume, it changes its shape to create the space for the lungs to expand. And with each exhale, as we become aware of the diaphragm's contraction and its ascension back up under our ribs, it helps us to release any of the stale, stagnant energy, stale, stagnant breath that sometimes resides deep in the lungs if we breathe shallow throughout our days, if we don't add in a focused breath practice of completely filling the lungs and completely emptying the lungs. Allow the breath to come back to whatever rhythm it is without any real focus. Just begin to notice, how is the movement through the nostrils after your practice? Has anything changed or did it remain the same? Integrate the movements of the physical body with this first subtle practice of the movements of the breath. So we see how they're intertwined. Whenever you're set, we are going to rest just to integrate this information, just to allow our body to process. So take this time to set up a beautiful Shavasana space. Maybe you can lay down on your back, depending on how it feels in your home that day. Maybe you want a blanket or a pillow, whatever that might be. Just bring yourself into a comfortable, reclined position. And for this Shavasana, I'm going to make it more of a guided time. I'm going to read a guided meditation about the breath as you rest. So, as you find your Shavasana, you find this place of rest. If you become so restful that my voice trails off into the background of your awareness, please allow it to do that. Or you can stay connected to the sounds. So notice how the breath is gently directed throughout your body. Begin to notice where you feel it, where the energy in the breath seems to flow with ease. Connect with this inner spring of vital energy. Our life force is in our breath. Sense how the abdomen rises and falls in synchrony with breathing naturally and deepening your connection to your inner vitality. Some time to sense your vibrancy. Feel the free flow of prana, of energy, as it circulates through your body. The breath allows all of our cells to be nurtured and nourished. As it enters the body, we experience it in our lungs, in our ribs, in our diaphragm. But its journey is comprehensive and expansive as it joins the other flowing energies of our body. The breath and the blood unite, and the oxygen follows the trails to each and every cell, nurturing, nourishing, cleansing. Rest. This is a time to now let go of the focus. There's no need to watch the breath. No need to concentrate. Vasana is the practice of being, not doing. It's a tough practice. I'll call you back shortly. Allow the breath to be your focus once again. Noticing all the parts of the back body that are resting on the hard surface beneath you. Maybe allow the awareness to find one more place to experience your breath as the attention is directed towards the back of the ribs. And as the breath begins to deepen and the energy expands, before there's any movement, maybe simply notice, can you feel the expansion of the lungs and the ribs in the back body as the breath enters? And how does it change as the breath leaves? Is there any other place, an individual place that I haven't mentioned, that captures your attention while you're breathing? Something you notice. Now that the breath has begun to deepen, let's add some subtle movements and use this vital energy to make our transition. Wiggling the fingers and moving this flow of prana, this flow of energy through the body. Wiggling the toes. Maybe rocking the head from side to side. Windshield wipering the legs back and forth. Deciding what your transition looks like. Sometimes a full body yawn, and as we bring the arms out to the side and pushed out through the soles of the feet, we begin to expand. And this yawn of breath, right? We yawn when we need a breath. So we feel this full body expansion, full body breath. And if it feels right, you can also curl up, bring those knees up into your heart space. And as the body curls up into this beautiful little ball, notice how this contraction of the body changes the movements in the diaphragm and the ribs. The breath is alive and constantly making adjustments to support whatever we're asking of it. So maybe as we rock from side to side, we can feel the massaging of those back ribs against the floor. Ultimately finding our way to roll over onto one side and taking a brief rest. Outstretching the top leg, using the hands to assist you with a nice deep inhale. Allow that to bring you back to your meditation seat, an erected spine. Each of these movements a different experience as we connect the breath with the body. End our practice. We'll have one more introduction of a breath. And that's our ujjayi breath. Ujjayi means ocean sounding breath. It's a breath we use in yoga a lot. And it's a breath that's like fogging up a mirror without opening your mouth. So we'd make that same sound in ujjayi breath. You feel the sensation in the back of the throat. So taking an inhale through the nose, you can hear it as if you're listening to a shell on the beach. You hear the sound in the nose. And the exhale is as if you're going to fog up a mirror, but we're using our nose this time, so it's an audible sound of the ocean. So 3 breaths of ujjayi, inhaling through the nose, listening to the sound. Exhale, fog up that mirror. One more time. Releasing the eyes, allowing them to open, coming back. Oh, welcome back.